you for not living up to your full potential. So the real question is, that's how you take the invisible and make it visible, right? How you take what you dream about and make it happen. Your contribution to society, not just why. I'm going to fight. I'm going to work. It's rarely mastered as the art of fulfillment. I want nothing from you but for you to leave this room and know what you want. What's your money, your marriage? What do you want? What's your son and your daughter? What do you want with your health? What do you want? Like, how much money do you want when it comes to fulfillment? What do you want to try? How do you want to live? Not just waking up like an accident. Find out what you want and spend the rest of your natural life waking up and going after.
Staring hard, looking at the hourglass, feeling like time might have passed you. All the dreams, visions that you used to have, looking back, like, is it past due? I guarantee.
Wow, so good. Wow, oh, wow, oh, wow, Cauveé. Hello, everyone. How was that beautiful song we just listened to? Amazing. And you know, founders, some days can feel like you're surviving and not thriving, right? With no evidence of your business succeeding and problems knocking at your door begging for solutions, how do you keep inspired and moving forward? How do you shift your attention from the obstacles to the opportunities? Well, our guest is a vibrant edutainer and inspiration engineer, and he's going to lift you up and leave you feeling transformed while sharing his uniquely delicious problem solving and branding strategies. Oh my gosh. Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Wise Up Wednesday on the Startup Life live show. I'm your host, Ande Lyons, startup coach to first-time founders. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I now help newly minted business owners sleep through the night by giving them peace of mind. That's right. Through 2-hour startup or funding strategy sessions or a pitch deck review or monthly coaching or by the minute on-demand jam session, using my Andelicious strategies, solutions, insights, and inspiration, these founders are building profitable and sustainable businesses without spending a fortune or wasting valuable time. And I am so delighted you carved out time in your schedule to tune in and up your founder game, because as you do better, your business does better. And we are streaming live right now on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, thanks to the oh so delicious StreamYard platform. A special yoo-hoo and mwah to the replay viewers. I'm grateful for your attention too. And be sure to click the subscribe button on the bottom of your screen. And please click that little bell icon so you'll be alerted whenever I upload a new video. Thank you so much for your support. And those of you tuning in live, please use this as an opportunity to expand your network. After all, this is an online networking event. So connect with each other on LinkedIn and follow each other on social media, because you never know when and where your next collaboration could come from. Your questions are so important, so please pop them into the comment threads. Always give us a high five and mwahs and whatever, clink, clink. Let me know you're there and you're ready to glow with our conversation today. And any questions, of course, Cauveé and I will answer them right away. And if you know someone who would benefit from our conversation, please tag them and bring them along. Cool? So I'm so excited to share today's guest, Cauveé, with you. I mean, well, it's hard to describe this uniquely amazing man. A performer since 2003, Cauveé decided to become a professional edutainer in 2015. He had no idea what that looked like, which I just love. But as he continued to refine his vision, he knew he wanted to inspire, educate, and entertain the world. Cauveé's hybrid gradually surfaced, and it's this beautiful combination of speaker, musician, and coach. He's a TEDx speaker, has been published in Huffington Post as Strategist to Watch, Thrive Global, Influencive, Hustler's Digest, and many more. And I don't know about you, but I am dying to dig in and learn more about this inspiration engineer. Don't you want to know more? Well, let's give him a hearty welcome and bring him right into the screen to join us. Hey, Cauveé!
What's going on, everybody? I'm feeling very delicious right now. I'm ready to go. I'm excited.
Well, I got to tell you, that tune that you started off, that we got to play at the beginning, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that song's called Never Too Late off of our I Just Want to Inspire You media collection. And I was at this place in my journey where I was just like, do I still want to keep going? It was a tough question, right? I had been through mental health issues. I had been institutionalized in a health, like what I know or what they call a insane asylum. Like I was there, and it was crazy. Yeah, that's like a whole deep thing. Like her eyes blew up. She's like, "What?" So it was crazy, and I went through all these hurdles, these very low dips, and so I got to a point where I was looking at my age, and I was feeling like I should be at a certain place at this time of my journey, and I'm not there. And so Never Too Late was really just that song that like, is it too late? Like, did my time pass? I don't know. So it was just me really releasing that energy and getting those thoughts or getting some of that sadness off my consciousness.
I love that, something fierce. And we all face that, right, listeners? Give me a high five if anybody, or a thumbs up if you've had that experience where you think, it's too late. Of course, at the end of every decade, I'm saying, oh, well, that's it, done for me. And then boom. I think we can all really appreciate where the dark days leave us feeling so vulnerable.
Absolutely. And I want to add to that really quickly. You know, that was a great place for me to go, right? Sometimes we got to ask ourselves tough questions. Like, do I really want to? The startup, as we know, being a startup, first-time founder especially, is going to be very challenging. There's going to be a lot of pain along this journey. Let's not be, let's be frank about it. So with that said, I really had to ask myself, like, I'm 20 years in. Do I want to keep going? Like, this is a long time. So, it was really good for me to really face the music or face that fear, face that challenge, and then really come to some clarity and decide to say, yes, with certainty, I do want to keep going.
Right. And I can completely relate, but I especially feel this for creatives, right, Cauveé? Sure. When you're putting it out, whether it's acting or a musician, or, some kind of performing, or an artist working in a medium, a photographer, it can be very, very challenging. Let's say hi to some folks, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
So Vicki O'Neill, she's a B2B marketing goddess. She was wondering what those awesome beats were. I agree. Didn't you just feel like grooving? It was so good. Yes, Aristotle. I'm just going to show a few of Aristotle's comments. Yes, great stuff. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Mental health struggles are for reals, everybody, but it's how we learn more about each other. And let me share, with Natalia here. She's Natalie. Natalie, you are an amazing coach for people. You talk about the pain and how to move and groove through it all the time. Mother of 3, in the military, as well as, a coach that's helping women really manage their lives. You're amazing. And thank you so much for tuning in and for that wonderful, wonderful comment. And Natalie, for the great work you do with folks. It's really life-changing for many women, especially the moms out there. So, I think through our lived experiences, this is what, the contrast moments of our dark side, Cauveé. I'm always talking about how you don't want to push that away. You want to blend it into your day. So when our shadow sides talk to us and we feel that pain and we have conversations with them, then we're able to dissolve their voices. It's by ignoring the pain and our shadow side that we don't learn and grow. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. So very recently, I was the most transparent, the most open, the most vulnerable I've ever been. And I got to a point where, unfortunately, I had canceled meetings, like 12 meetings in a week, where I was just out. Like when I was in my darkest moments, like I don't shower, I don't eat. Like it's like, I'm out. Like, I'm unavailable. Vacation reminder is not on, right? And so I had this woman that I really wanted to connect with, very high level authority figure, and I had to cancel on her twice. And it brought me to a place where I said, man, I need to let her know, like, this is not just Cauveé being, unprofessional or whatever. I was like, hey, I'm struggling from some mental health issues. I just wanted you to know. And she's like, from a place of love and compassion, if there's anything that I can do, let me know. So I go on Facebook and I just open up to the world. I said, is there anybody? And I heard Tony Robbins. You guys heard Tony Robbins at the beginning of the song. I heard Tony Robbins in my head and in my spirit say, if you say you've tried everything, you haven't tried everything, because there's at least one person out there that has solved this, right? So I go on Facebook and I was like, is there anybody out there that has 100% overcame mental health, anxiety, depression, these types of mental health, suffering? And within moments, Andy, it went viral. And like the first 7 people was like, I have. And then it did like 267 comments in like 20 minutes. Like, it was insane. So we started, I started interviewing the people that have shared their stories. It was called Defeat Your Mind. It was a series we did on Instagram. And a lot of people, what I found is that it's our analytical mind or our logical mind trying to rationalize our darkness. And so it was just really interesting to hear everybody's story, and everybody's story was different, but the commonalities were the same. And it was very powerful for me to go through that experience so that I could get beyond my own darkness and learn from it, like you said.
Right. And we're seeing it in the comment sections too. Everybody has had mental health. I mean, my issues, if you're alive, you have mental health challenges, whether it's messaging or post-traumatic events that happened to you as a child or as an adult. The things that we tell each other can really stop us in our tracks. And depression is real, and #the struggle is real. So when you're really working outside your comfort zone, you're going to confront all sorts of limitations, and their voices are going to be so loud. Oh my gosh, that you can't do it. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? Unless you're a narcissist, you're going to be hit. So what we have to understand is you have to embrace that if you want to live fully, you're going to go through these things, and therefore you got to turn to people in your lives, bring professionals in, have these transparent conversations. And for those of you who are founders out there, you're out of your comfort zone all the time, and you're living with high levels of uncertainty. So any, quote, unresolved issues are going to come floating right up and smack you right in the face.
And I want to add something, because you brought up the artist piece, and I want to talk to our artists out there and our creatives out there. And I want to first off make sure everybody understands that if you're in business, you are a creative. Like, let's just first off get that in alignment. All right. So what was funny was, growing up, my dad would give me what I call these hero speeches. Right. I was 5-7 years old. He's like, son, anything you want to do, anything you can be. Like, anything you set your mind to, you can accomplish. And around age 9, I started to figure out, as I was in the studio making beats, making music, and I just fell in love with the process, Andy. I said, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And so me and my dad were at the playing basketball outside, and I was like, Dad, I figured out what I want to do. I figured out what I'm going to be. He's excited. He's like, what is this, son? What do you want to do with your life? I was like, I'm going to be a musician. He goes, you can't do that. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, you just told me I could do anything I want to do, right? And so,
yeah, but not that.
Not that, right? And so I talk about how he gave me the gift of ferocity. And as musicians, at 18 years of age, I sold out a concert of 1,209 people. And so as a creative, since you mentioned being an actor, when you mentioned being a musician or being a painter, your MVP is different. It doesn't work the same for entrepreneurs as it does for creatives. It just does not. And so that's the why behind the edutainment industry, and really being the face and the creator of that, because you got to figure out other revenue models and other ways to build in order to build your business and build your personal brand. So I just wanted to share that because it's so powerful for our artists and our entertainers and creatives out there.
Thank you so much. So when did the entrepreneurial bug hit you? When, for me, I always tell people it was every single business was a stray cat at the door yowling until I let it in. It was just never like, oh, I feel called to do this.
For me, it was really simple. I was about 14, 15 years old. And I just loved the music making process. I just loved hitting, like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was in the studio just hitting buttons, right? And I was just like, I just love this. I was already writing poetry from age 5. So I just basically took that poetry talent and then evolved it or grew it and started singing, started rapping, started emulating people I like, things like that. And so around that time, when I figured out what I want to do, I didn't have any sales skill. I didn't have any marketing skill. All I was a kid that played basketball that people knew for this crazy laugh in high school. And so I go to the campfire with a single that I had called Bobby Head. I went by the brand name Artistic at the time, like R-TISTIC. And I just shared it with the kids because I loved it. I was like, I need you guys to hear this. And, this is pre-MySpace and all social media that we have today. So, for its time, it went viral in Indiana, in the little city that I'm from. And so everybody was like, yo, I rock with this. And what was really interesting was, I mean, that's really where the entrepreneur bug set in, but I didn't identify or even know what an entrepreneur was. Like I had no idea of the concept. That wasn't something you saw people doing in my city, like creating businesses from at that age. Like now you got a lot of millennials that are really into, business, like small business and, running your own e-commerce store and all these things. Back then, that wasn't the case. And so with that said, that was where the journey started, where it really like took a shift, because that's another important point. I don't want to go too long-winded, but I just want to make sure everybody understands. I read the book, Waking the Giant Within by Tony Robbins, 2014.
Beautiful.
And when I left the music space, I started understanding and learning how technology companies are built. And when I started learning how they raise money and I started learning how their MVP works, I was like, how come that doesn't work for the record labels? Like, it's a total different system. Like this, it's the same principle. And there's a quote I want to give everybody right now by Ralph Waldo Emerson. He says, as to methods, there may be a million in some. He says, but the man, and I'm going to add, or woman, that can successfully grasp the principle may successfully select his or her own methods. So what I was doing was looking at the principle of how business works or entrepreneurship works or technology and all that side and the MVP, and then seeing how the creative space worked. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to build my hybrid. And that's where the entrepreneurship journey just took off for me.
I love that. And I love that you looked outside yourself for inspiration. I went to Tony Robbins' Business Mastery. And so I have a deep appreciation of how he can bring a level of not just inspiration and motivation, techniques and tactics to help jump you into and give you a deeper understanding. And for folks, with the Business Mastery, he also has a lot of other speakers that really hone in on business. But I also really enjoyed the folks in the crowd as well. And we have to constantly be learning and growing and finding ways to blast through our limitations. And what you had happen, Cauveé, is that you got a deeper understanding of how it works so that you could start positioning yourself, right? And start to take advantage and leverage the how it works and still use what's important for you and find ways to bring everything together for your full expression. But you brought up something earlier about, yes, all entrepreneurs are creatives. And you're right. We're coming up with creative solutions to problems people want solved and want to pay to have you solve.
Yes. So
So that's true. But our musicians, our artists have a different journey for their MVP. Tech companies, life sciences have a completely different hard, product folks, consumer electronics have, they pull something together that people can touch or look at, et cetera. How do creatives prove their value proposition?
That's a great question. There's a great, phenomenal book by Pat Flynn called Will It Fly, which is all about validation, right? And when you're validating, here's the key, is that numbers don't lie. The data doesn't lie. If I go survey, some people will say 100 people, I'll tell you to go survey 1,000 people. And you share a song, or you share an idea, or you share a concept, you share a new code, you share a new site, you share a new service, you share a new product, whatever it is, and we go analyze 1,000 people and get feedback, right? That feedback doesn't lie. So when I say it doesn't lie, you're either going to get a 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, 1-star. Like that's what you're going to get. And based on that feedback, then you'll know where you're at in the market and make the right adjustments or figure out what's the next step in order to take it to the next level. So where I'm at with what I do now is working with what I call legacy-driven brands, people that are personable, authentic, relatable. They want to connect, they're audience-centered, they're purpose-driven, and then what they want to do is create, and this is why I want to give you this, right? Because this is your unique value proposition as a creative. As a creative, nobody can create your art. Now, AI is on the rise, but I guarantee you no robot is going to create a Cauveé song experience or a Cauveé experience like I would create the experience. Nobody's going to act like you act. Nobody's going to think like you think. Nobody's going to communicate like you communicate. So being that right there in itself is your UVP, nobody's going to do it like you. Use that as leverage. And then what I would tell you is, as a creative, start figuring out other ways to monetize your gift and bring different ideas and elements, looking at things like coaching, looking at things like consulting, looking at things other than, and I'm gonna just use musicians for example. Musicians think, well, I'll make music and then I'll do piano lessons, or I'll teach an instrument. There's so much more opportunity if you just allow yourself to think bigger about how you can use your art, and any art for that matter, to attract people and then always position them into something else. And so that's my strategy for everything.
I love that, something fierce, because folks, when you're creating art, there's a, whether you're an author or musician, etc., there's a real vulnerability. It's a personal taste. But I have the same advice to creatives that Cauveé says, which is to understand that it's still branding. And sure, it's been done before, but not by you and not for the folks who want it. So the music, your art, your written word, if it's in a book, your photography. I've got a guy coming on the show next month. He's a photographer, lives in Brooklyn. When COVID happened and everybody became housebound, apartment bound, he took his photography and started capturing folks like you and me right now, for example, taking the photo right now, or just capturing all of this online communication and community with his very unique eye. And I thought, my gosh, this is going to be like after the Dust Bowl, and they had all those great photos. He's going to have this incredible collection of meaningful photos because of his eye and his ability to look at the screen, where, most of us would be just, grabbing our phone and going, whatever.
Sure.
He was using beautiful lens and lighting and making it a work of art. That's how we need to pivot, folks. And we learn, I'm just learning so much from your comments on the creative journey, Cauveé, because we cannot separate it. Whether you're proving a new app or a new product, food product, service, you still have to go through the same process, and it's personal. Although I will say, when my businesses that were more of a platform or product, et cetera, it was a little easier for me to differentiate, Cauveé, and pull myself out and always be the observer. And I was selling this out here. But with coaching services, it's been a lot harder for me to, step more fully into how do I bring this to the world, and how do I feel comfortable, because it's me, it's Andelicious. And it's the same thing. So I'm so grateful. I just want to say a quick hello again to the feedback, from the folks in the comment section. Natalie, yes, turning to professionals. We're going to go back a little bit here, folks, but I just want to acknowledge you for saying that so much. And yes, all the time, uncertainty and outside the comfort zone is real and constant.
Yes.
And music is healing. It really, really is. I mean, I just love that piece that you shared for us, had me play in the beginning. And yes, Eric Cox, he has a wonderful business called Media Prepared. So people are ready when the mic is in their face. I think people forget that most artists are entrepreneurs, even the most well-known out there. You know what? That's right. That's taking it to a whole nother conversation, another level. That's beautiful. So, Cauveé, you have a unique way of bringing your, what we'd like to call unfair advantage, what makes you unique, your UVP to the world, and that's your inspiration engineer. I'd love for you to talk more about that. You did show that, musician telling your dad, I'm doing this for a living, and dad was like, well, you can't make no money doing that. You found a way to tap into that, but also tap into other ways to serve the world. Let's talk about how you landed on Inspiration Engineer, and then how we can today in 2020 and 2021 start really thinking about building our brands, personal brands as well as professional brands. That's a lot to digest, but go for it.
That's a lot. Yeah, let's get heavy with it. So I'm going to start with the latter and then roll that into the Inspiration Engineer question. So, the late, great Kobe Bryant is a perfect example of a personal brand, and why I'm so passionate about telling people, build your personal brand. And you say, well, Cauveé, what do you mean? What I mean is, Kobe Bryant got known for his basketball talent, which basketball is art on the court, right? He got known for basketball. As he was retiring or positioning out of playing in the NBA, he went into film. Then he went into venture capital. Now, people went along with Kobe because they know him as Mamba mentality, assassin on the court, everything he represents on the court. They're like, I'm rocking with you no matter what you do because you're Kobe Bryant. So that is the principle, going back to the Ralph Waldo Emerson, that's the principle that applies to us all. When you get known for your art, for your product, like you said, whether it's photography, writing, food, whatever it is you do, when you get known for that craft, people are going to rock with you, the human. And when they're rocking with you, the human, it doesn't really matter what you put out. And I say it doesn't matter. I mean, put out something of quality. I'm not saying be unrighteous about it, but I'm saying if you're putting out something great, people are going to follow you because they rock with you. So that's number one. Always build your personal brand, which is your resume anyway. So you might as well go ahead and build it. That's just,
and get a high five in the comment section. Come on.
That's facts. That's
that is delicious advice.
That's facts. As far as inspiration engineering, there's two types of people, right? You've got a generalist, Dennis Rodman, since we're talking about basketball. You've got I said that backwards. Generalist, Draymond Green, he does everything on the court well. Then you got a specialist, Dennis Rodman, all he does is rebound, right? Now, society says that, that society positions us and tells us that we should focus on doing our one thing. Though, do your one thing. What's your one thing? The counter to that philosophy is the Jim Rohn or Zig Ziglar philosophy, where they say the more skills you have, the more value you can offer to the marketplace, which is a generalist. So for me, where I was in my journey, Andy, I had all these different skills. By this time, 2015, since you referenced that year, I have been, and I'm just going to name some things, no arrogance, no ego, y'all. I'm just telling y'all what it is so you understand kind of the problem I was having. I had a certain level of mastery in sales. I had been marketing. I had done events. I had event organization, like putting together the events, putting on production, being an audio engineer, being a poet, being a writer, rapper, singer. And then in the business world, I was a salesperson or social media guy. And so every time I would be around different people, my messaging started changing. When I was around artists and people in that community, I was, a musician or whatever. When I was around business people, I was either a salesperson or a marketer. And I just felt inauthentic. I just felt like I was lying to people. And I was like, you know what? What I really am is a strategist. And Tony Robbins, since we talked about him earlier, he didn't talk about him being a strategist. People know him as a speaker, not really his strategy side. So I was like, well, if I say I'm a strategist, it just opens up more questions. Well, what kind of strategist are you? Are you a music strategist, business strategist? Right? So I was like, all right, I just need to create my own lane and create my own space. So I go to my community, same thing, going back to that surveying and getting data. And I went to everybody and I said, look, this is the problem that I'm having. And I need y'all, I've got 10 titles. I need y'all to tell me which one I am. I need y'all to tell me because I don't know. And we narrowed it from 10 to 5, 5 to 2, and then inspiration engineer. And I don't even remember what the runner-up was. But there are 2 titles left. And then they said, you're the inspiration engineer. And the inspiration engineer was born.
Wow. Oh, wow. This is the beauty of having a personal board of advisors, a group of people you can turn to and say, okay, you've had this experience with me. I need to nail this down so I can better communicate to my tribe and vibe with my tribe what I'm delivering. And, inspiration engineer still has some vagueness to it, Cauveé, but once they take a look at you and how you add with a tagline, with the supporting information, they get it 100%, but it brings up a question, a curiosity, right?
Yes.
Inspiration engineer. Wow. We know that engineers are like left brain, hardcore, defined lines, all of that and how their brains think, but inspiration. And so what is the one-liner that comes after inspiration engineer?
Well, it's a great question, and I'm going to answer it 2 ways because I want to tell a little funny story really quick.
Okay.
When I first came up with first had the title, I didn't know how to describe it to people. So I would give people a parable, and they were like, well, what is it? And I would say, well, imagine if Tony Robbins and Michael Jackson had a baby, I'm the baby. And they would get a laugh about 87% of the time, right? Like I had to give you an analogy to get it. And to this day, I think it still has, some people are like, well, what part of it do you do? Because you do so much. I still, I don't know where to start with you. And it's like, well, keep it simple. I inspire, I educate, I entertain. That's it. And so with those 3 things, that's all I do. But it functions at different levels for different people. So consulting for the higher level, right? People that have much farther along, like yourself on your journey, then it is more mentorship or coaching for somebody just getting started, which has a different price point and a different structure within the hierarchy of how it works. But it's the same. A coach, a consultant, a coach, a mentor, they're an advisor, or they all do the same type of thing. So it's just based on level at that point. So that's what I do: inspire, educate, entertain.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And so let's talk a little bit more about branding, because so many folks, founders, they've got a lot of things that they've nailed down. Okay. But this branding thing, and I'm always saying to folks, you got to nail this down, frankly, in my opinion, before A, you come up with the name, B, before you put up any collateral, any of your marketing assets, because it's also the colors that you're going to use and the vibe of your brand, because you want to make it super easy for people to relate to you and your brand. And those people are your ideal customers. So let's talk, how do you help folks with branding?
So first and foremost, if you're just getting started today, reach out to me and I'll send you a template for called a lean canvas. Lean canvas, because business plans are too massive sometimes. And I love what you said, Ande. And it depends. If you see the color, if you see some things visionary wise, and you're like, yeah, I see that, start there. If you don't, start with what you have. That's what I would tell somebody. Just start with what you do know, because there was so much along this that I did not know. And as we start taking if you guys, have you ever seen X-Men, the movie? Are you a Marvel fan?
Yeah, I am.
All right. So for those that know this movie, there's a guy named Magneto, and he controls metal, right? And he walks across a bridge, but there's no bridge. So when he takes a step, a plank of metal comes under his foot. And as he takes another step, another plank of metal. And by the time he keeps stepping, he looks back, there's a bridge. So that is the journey of entrepreneurialism. You don't see everything up front. So I would say, first off, start with a lean canvas, which has a few questions to just kind of get a baseline or a foundation. And that might evolve as well, but at least it can give you a foundation. But as far as branding goes, I would say start with your message and who you want to serve, right? If we start with at least our message as to what do we want to do, what is it that I'm providing and why, right? Start with why. Simon Sinek, shout out to Simon if you watch it. Start with why, your message, and what you want to do. I think that's a great place to then start figuring out the aesthetics and how it's going to look and how you're going to present it. But I guarantee you, if you go look at, if you go through all the Google search photos, you'll see pictures of Cauveé in this big old suit and looking very traditional corporate. That is not me. That's not me anymore. So it will modify and it will evolve. I would say start with the lean canvas first, or just start with what you have and go with what you know.
Yeah. So the lean canvas, everybody, is just about 6 squares that you're going to fill out, because you have to understand your customer segment, how you're going to deliver to your customer segment, understand your one-liner, what that problem is that you're solving that folks will pay for, revenue, that business model. So that's really, really key. It's very, very basic, and it's ideal for creatives because it's just a canvas. Then
I want to add something right there for our creatives too. When it comes to music, as there are, I forget the young lady's name. She said music is so healing.
Vicky.
Vicky. Shout out to Vicky. So music, movies, and things like that are not necessarily pain solvers. I don't necessarily say that solves a pain. A lot of us watch entertainment because we just want to feel a sense of joy or a sense of pleasure. So usually there's an emotional connection we have with our favorite song or our favorite movie, what have you. So if you're a creative and you are in that kind of space, start figuring out what is the emotional attachment that you give people with your art, and use that as your why or your pain solution.
Right. I mean, I started off with possibility partners because I love it all about being possibilities, but that was just too wide and vague for me. So that's when I got in. Well, I like the startup life. I mean, this is where I'm living, in the startup, the 0 to 36 months. But then there's a bajillion out there to help startup founders. So I had been called a woman on Twitter, Dee Watson, at Dee Watson, everybody. She's amazing. Social media goddess. She called me Andelicious back in 2012, and it stuck. And so that's when I said, you know what? It is Andelicious advice, because it's my high level of enthusiasm and optimism, all framed framing hardcore business skills and what you
Yes.
need to do and strategies. And I remember telling my husband I was going with delicious advice, and he shuddered. And I said, honey, you're not my ideal customer. You're my ideal husband, but you're not my ideal customer. But, it's just really being able to come up with something that people will learn to have trust and faith in you because you're consistently delivering that to them. And it's relatable to who you want to talk to. And that has to be something that's just natural about who you are. I mean, Cauveé talked about himself in a suit. It wasn't who he was. You have to be true to who you are while serving the folks that you want to serve. And this takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of experimentation, right?
Absolutely. And you know what's really interesting? It made me think about the Bruce Lee quote, right? He's like, transform your mind. He's like, water can flow. He said, water can crash. He said, be like water, my friend, right? You want to be flexible like water. And what you were just saying, what made me laugh and think about when Cauveé was originally my middle name. And I hated it my whole life, like absolutely hated it. It sounded like a drink you would get at Starbucks. Like, I don't want a coffee and I don't want a cappuccino. Can I get a venti Cauveé, please? Like, I just didn't like it. Like, I was just like, I hate it. And one day, I don't know, it like hit me. I don't know where it hit me from, but I started thinking about, giving people a boost, like caffeine. And I was talking to a gentleman on Facebook Messenger, and I was like, all right, man, it's your boy Cauveé. I really appreciate you, bro. Boost. And he goes, boost. And he said it back to me like, goodbye. Like, I'm signing out. Boost. And now boost became a part of my brand strategy, like a part of something that I say all the time. And that these types of things, like I said, being just creative, allowing yourself to be flexible, allowing yourself to have fun and be playful and not be so rigid and strict, and just allow it to be fun, allow yourself to innovate and create new things, try new things, and just flow. And the last thing I'll add to that, going back to music, you have performances that are hard scripted. Then you have improv, or what we call freestyle, that has its own beauty as well. So life is really a dance between the two, the rigidness and the softness or the flow. And being able to find that flow is how you will create new assets for your business, your brand, and your ideas, because you'll be able to just kind of weave in and weave out of different things that different people, I would not, as you're talking about your husband, I would not focus on the people that you're maybe the closest with, because those come with bias. But people that don't know you, they don't have the same biases, and that is the people best to absorb from.
Right. And you talk a lot about this with your authentic, legacy-driven brands.
Yes.
How did you come up with that?
That was fairly recent, and that was coaching. If you don't, one other big thing I would tell a lot of people that, are just getting started on your journey, having mentors, having coaches changes the game. Matter of fact, I'm a Christian kingdom entrepreneur, right? So I believe in the Bible, Holy Spirit, God, and Jesus Christ, his son. And so there's a story about King Solomon, which was the wisest man to ever live in the natural. And the very first thing he did when he took office was surrounded himself with mentors and advisors. So that tells you the power of mentors and advisors. So my scripting, or my niche, as they say, niche down at the time, was still a little loose. Like, I knew the age range, I knew who I served, I knew what they listened to, I knew what their interests were, but I still didn't have that. It just didn't have that crispness to it. And so my coach, Sean Douglas, shout out to Sean if you're watching, he was like, okay, so you're really about helping people build legacy driven brands. And as we were on a mastermind call, he spit it out, and I was like, oh, that's it. Let's go. And it was mine. And so then I changed all the branding, and there you go. That was just and for our listeners and viewers out there, that was just only maybe a week and a half ago. And that's what I'm saying. Like, these types of changes, these modifications, these innovations, this evolution, you're on the evolution of freedom. This evolution is going to just make little subtle changes gradually over time. And that's the process and the journey.
It's those beats, like your song that you played in the beginning, so groovy.
Yes.
and meaningful and moving. This is such important information, especially the mentoring. Here's what happens when you have a mentor who's unbiased. They are going to pull out of you, folks, what you already know. So you're sitting there talking, you're bouncing your ideas back and forth. The next thing you know, up bubbles out, and they're like, spotlight, legacy, right then and there. That is invaluable. having that person, because when you have all this stuff jumbled up inside of you, you can't be turning to your beloved. You cannot be turning to your best friends. You need to turn to someone who is in your life as a professional mentor to help you bring out all of this deliciousness. And you cannot bring it out if you're not able to verbalize it. And some people have co-founders and it works for them. But even then, you still need someone who is in your corner, who is about you and your success, so that you can have those conversations. And once you get the fear up and the doubt and some other stuff, and what am I going to do here? But boom, that's when the gold, because you have the solution. It's in there. And so I don't know if you agree with that or not, Cauveé, but that's my experience after 4 businesses and not having that. That's one of the main reasons I started Startup Life.
I do. I'll say just 2 things that I just want everybody to think about and also absorb, right? So number 1, you don't go to a person who has a big old pot belly, gut belly, big old stomach and say, how do you get a 6-pack of abs? Like, you just don't do that, right? Like, if they knew, they would have one. So you, first off, whatever the goal that you have, be around, get advice from the people that have done what you want to do. You want to make 6 figures, go get a 6-figure coach who's done it. Go get a 7-figure coach. You want 7, I mean, whatever you want to do. The people that have done it are the ones that can teach really the best ways. Now, also with that said, Gary Vee passed on Uber. He talks about that all the time. Passed on Uber like 3 times, meaning he didn't see it to turn into what it is. I think he's now an investor now, but he missed it.
Well, he actually at the time wanted to buy this apartment in Manhattan. And so that's where he wanted to put his money. And if he had just waited a little longer in that apartment, he would have had, as he said, I would have been able to buy the jets.
There you go, right? So just because somebody is experienced and advanced, and I had this with Sean, I love Sean to life, but we have a different way of doing things at times. And even though I know and I see where his heart's at and what he's saying, I get it because I've been doing this for a long time. We don't have the same challenge. I'm not and again, no arrogance, no ego. I'm not a first-time founder now. I've been doing this for a long time. And so for me to go out and have to sell and validate and do that whole thing, I now have an idea of what people want and know what people want. So he'll tell me like, man, just launch it to get it out and go. And I'm like, no, I want to give people the bundle so that I can give them the sequence or the automation and do it that way versus just putting out a product and making money and flipping it. So anyway, so like I said, even your coaches, it's still, you still want to survey that data. You still want to survey from high level people because it just, I mean, it doesn't make someone right, wrong, or indifferent. It makes it based on their experience. And that's where they're going to coach you from. So don't take it as like, oh, that's solemn advice. Like that's going to work for me because it worked for them. Just understand that's another valuable opinion you can absorb and then see, you know, let that resonate, let that kind of marinate and use it that way.
You are the owner of your business. You know your business better than anyone. You're getting this advice so you can refine what you're doing, maybe not take as much time to get to that solution or that understanding. You're going to get there faster. You're not going to spend as much money because you're not wasting the time, and time is so valuable as you're building your business. But also, you know, everybody knows my favorite saying, Cauveé, if you're trying to operate your business without the data, that means you're driving a car without the steering wheel. Thanks. The data always brings you what you need to know to make the best decisions, even if you think this is the color or this is the thing we need to go to. I know what everybody needs. You don't. And your customers are going to tell you what they want. So failure happens all the time. It has this bad rap, like it's something bad to fail, but it isn't. What are your thoughts on failure and how to move through it? You know, you were talking earlier about the difficult, dark days that you had, but how rich they were in learning for you and in growing for you and helped you, you know, get some hard-earned lived tools so that you could be even more fully expressed in the world and add more value to people's lives. Let's have you talk a little bit about failure and how you frame that up.
Sure. I think first thing we need to do in America, I can't speak for other countries, but American education, we need to change the grading system. We need to have A equal excellent and L equal learning. There is no failure, right? We need to change the programming from ground zero. Failure, the only failure that I see is if you leave this world with regret. I wish I woulda, I wish I shoulda, I coulda, because that's failure to me. I think that would be the worst thing, to die with all these potential talents and taking all your gifts to the grave. Like that's failure to me. With what I was saying earlier, the depression, the things I've been through, you're going to have some great wins and some things that are going to really build you up, you're going to have some experiences, and you'll have more of those that are going to really hurt. And really hurt is an understatement. It's going to be painful. That you need to fail because you need to grow. And you say, well, Cauveé, that doesn't really make sense. And it does, from the standpoint of the failure in those experiences build up a perseverance in you and a character. And being that I said, Ande, a few minutes ago that I'm a Christian entrepreneur, I'm actually pulling up the scripture in the Bible because this really helped me when I saw the Lord has a formula. He has a formula on suffering. And I read it all the time because I'm just like, it reminds us of this is the way it works. And this is Romans 5:3 from the NIV. He says, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character. Character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame because God's love has been poured into our hearts, which ties into the scripture of I will not leave you nor forsake you. But that's the process. That suffering produces the perseverance and changes the character. And as you keep working, as they say, seek and you shall find. You find by seeking. You ask the questions by going for the answer. And it's those experiences that you're not going to know what you don't know. And so you have to fail. You have to go through that pain in order to experience so that it is in your physiology, that now in your biology, you've got it. And now, this is something you're going to take with you to get better, but you're still going to make the mistakes, and it's going to happen to us all. And it's part of the process. And the last thing I'll say on that very topic, if you go look at the common denominator of all success stories, every success story has a failure story. And that's what we connect to, which is the Rocky Balboa story, where the person's getting beat up the whole time and then they end up coming out triumphant. That is the common denominator. So if you were going to go on this journey, or if you're a part of this journey, you already know that is the way it works, and you don't get to success any other way.
I love that. I agree, Aristotle. Cauveé, that's so helpful and true. Absolutely. Absolutely. And if Natalie's still listening, I know you use scripture a lot in, how you coach and connect with folks in your tribe. And so I am sure that you were resonating as well with what Cauveé was sharing earlier. And you're right. There's nothing better. I mean, please, my husband and I, we've been together 35 years. And as we say, we've lost babies and businesses, all our money and all our hormones, but we never lost each other. And, everybody calls us the comeback kids, but, life happens when you're willing to put yourself out there and try to find a better way for you to be in the world. Stretching out of your comfort zones and all of that isn't a guaranteed easy road, but nobody can take away from you what's between your ears. So no matter what happens, and in your heart, so no matter what happens to you, you will be okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. That's poetry snaps on that, Ande. That's poetry snap. I'll say, the other thing too that a lot of companies do, Ande, and we both know this, they rebrand, right? They'll take all that learning. It didn't work out, and then they'll change the logo, change the name, and do it again. I mean, that's what, you could just keep changing. I wouldn't suggest that for SEO and things of that nature, since we know, as you're building your identity, you want to try your best to get something, lock it in, and let it stick. But at the end of the day, if you fail, it's okay. You ain't gonna die from it. It's all right. And you just make those changes and use it for your betterment.
And we've talked about your music and your life as a creative, and we've talked about how you've educated everybody and coached and been so significant. But you're also a speaker. You have had a TED Talk. This is something many founders come up against. Eric earlier, this is what he helps many CEOs in the C-suite as well as founders address: fear of public speaking. I myself have suffered from this significantly. I have no problem right now talking into the camera to the wonderful audience out there now and later. I just adore all of you so much. But you put me in front of a room and I'm like, what am I saying? It's hard, but let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about it. Let's hit it hard. So number one, 75% of men and women globally are afraid to public speak. Most people would rather die than go public speak. So if you are afraid, you're in the majority, right? But mastering that is going to put you in the top 25% in the marketplace, right? So everybody has to communicate some way, shape, or form. And being that we were talking about earlier, one thing that you want to have is your message. You're always going to be communicating your message with people. That is one of the biggest parts about building a business, is connecting with people. So I'm going to highly encourage you to master these 3 skills. I call this, like in college, we call it your prerequisites, right? Like you got to have this class to go to that class. So if you master public speaking, and what they say is, where the uncomfort is where the growth is. So if you're uncomfortable, then that's the direction you need to go, because you're uncomfortable. So that's number 1. Mastering public speaking. If you master public speaking, and public speaking is not just or let's say mastery of communication. Mastery of communication is not just speaking. Mastery of communication is also effective listening, body language, how you do your hand gestures, your ability to get really soft, your ability to get really loud and excited, to draw people in, and again, create that emotion. So for me, I went to Toastmasters and gave a couple speeches in high school, and that was where I started getting really refined in speaking. And so anyway, we master that. The next thing I would master, second skill, and these 3 skills, guys, apply to all businesses. So you're always going to be able to use them. Second skill I would master is what I call relationship acquisition, aka sales. Because sales is the ability of asking the right question at the right time, and really being able to position an opportunity for a win-win-win opportunity. Sales is really, sales is ultimately being able to provide a solution and build relationships, again, using now our communication, and then being able to ask questions at the right time to get a sale. Marketing is mass communication of sales. So if you have those 3 skills on your skill stack, that's what I call it, your skill stack, then you are ready to go take over the world, basically, because those 3 things apply to all industries. It doesn't matter what industry it is. And so those 3 things I would tell people to always get better, always learn, study, and continue studying. Even as a speaker that has done some of the things you shared, Ande, I'm still always working on how can I be better. And that's always that process of just consistently getting better.
And we both know that's what Tony talks about, and anybody who's out there helping folks do better and get better, it's because you reach a plateau, and then you got to, as Garen says, you got new level, new shovel, or some people say new devil, but I like new shovel, meaning that you're going to come up against some more stuff that you're going to have to dig into to be better. And I say this every Wednesday, don't I, everybody? To do better with your business, if you want your business to do better, you, the founder, has to do better. And that's sharpening your skills on every level. Of course, bringing in the right team members is very, very helpful, but also you too have to be able to lead them and do better. I agree, Aristotle. I need to take notes on this episode. I'll be having timestamps in there for you all. Thank you, Aristotle. I appreciate that so much. I appreciate you too. Future leader right here, just so you know, everyone. That's what we do. And there'll be timestamps in the show notes, everybody. So I'll have them all specifically going to all the different nuggets that Cauveé has shared today. Cauveé, I want to bring up this wonderful item right here. Tell everybody about this, please.
Yeah, so I just want to inspire you media collection. It is as you say, it's a bundle of deliciousness. It's just so delicious of what it's got in it. It's a poetry book. It's a music album. It's an actual audio book, which we're positioning a media book, because it is not just someone talking to you and reading to you. It is just a bundle of joy. It's going to tap into your emotions. You're going to dance. You're going to be able to critically think. And it's just it's just a bundle of deliciousness.
Yeah, so folks can email you Andelicious. And of course, that's not an easy word to spell, but you guys, I'll put this also into the comment threads and into the show notes so you can grab it. But just email Cauveé with and say, I want some inspiration. And that should do the trick for you. Yes, Aristotle.
That's a $79 value that I want to give everybody for free. So I want you guys to really enjoy it and love it. I just want to move people. I mean, it is what it says. I just want to inspire you. Like, that's really what I want to do. And I want to really, not just, get people dancing and feeling good, because inspiration is great. Motivation is great. However, you need practicality as well. And you need, other people in your tribe to continuously be around. And I just want to be there for the folks. And again, if I can be of any help, any any support or service, feel free to reach out to me at any time. Andelicious@Cauveé.com.
I love it. That's also a really unique way, folks, to when you're talking with someone or collaborating with someone, using an email to get folks to reach out to you. I love that. Something fierce. Viewers, I just want to say I am so grateful you tuned in and took time out to hear what Cauveé had to say. It's going to enrich your life, enrich your brand, enrich your work in the world. He is so amazing. And for those of you watching the replay, bravo, making it down this far. I know, from the Bruce Lee quote to the Ralph Emerson.
Waldo Emerson. Yeah, Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Quote to, just so many nuggets, scripture, everything. Cauveé brought it all with him today. And, I'm always curious as to other speakers, other experts you'd like me to bring in the show. Just send me some names and I will reach out to them. If you have any questions after the show, please reach out to us. Pop them into the comment section. I will make sure you'll be able to get in touch with Cauveé. Again, all the links will be in the show notes. I've shared them live while we've been going on, but also for the replay, folks, it's all there for you. And I'm just saying, for me, if you are struggling alone on your journey as a founder, please stop. We talked about this. You deserve a mentor. You are worthy of a mentor. And if I am in alignment with who you be, please reach out to me. We can schedule a 2-hour strategy or funding, startup strategy or funding strategy session. If you have a pitch deck you need reviewed, you know how I feel about this. Don't be going pitching to people without having someone like me review that pitch deck. I've raised millions in VCs, thousands in angels. And I have co-host a monthly pitch event here in Boston. I pitch founders help founders all the time with their pitch deck. Please reach out to me. And I do one-on-one, by the minute jam sessions. Sometimes as we get to know each other, you can just call me. We can jam for 15 minutes on whatever you've got going on. Reach out. I have the link in the show notes to do that. So you can schedule your 15-minute free conversation with me and see if we're a fit. So now I want to share who's coming up on Fab Founder Friday. We've got the so delicious Sarah Green. And I got to tell you, this story is amazing. Now, this is Friday, August 28th at 1 p.m. EST. We want to see you live because we're chatting with Fab Femme startup founder, Sarah Green. And here's the question for you. What happens when a daughter's strong engineering and product design background combined with her passion for the beauty industry meets her mother's ingenious innovation for keeping her daughter's tears at bay and hair from breaking when taking down their braids? Well, we're going to learn it all on Fab Founder Friday, because Sarah Green, her mom created this really cool, I'm not going to call it contraption. It is an innovation, but it really helps. Those beautiful long braids, they are not easy to unwind. And this wonderful device that Sarah has created, she's bringing to the market, will really help that. And I would love for all of you to tune in and give her some love and put some wind into her sails as well. And that's this Friday, August 28th at 1 p.m. EST. Oh my gosh, let's bring Cauveé back into the room. This has been, for reals, amazing.
I've had a blast.
So much. Any final thoughts for folks?
Yeah. I would tell people, as you heard at the beginning, it's never too late. Get started today. Thinking that you have tomorrow is a place of arrogance. We don't know we'll be here tomorrow. Start today. Test today. Get the surveys today. Build the product today. Build the brand today. Today is what you have. It's your boy Cauveé. Reach out to me on all platforms, just at Cauveé. And I look forward to sending out these media collections to your guests, Andelicious@Cauveé.com. Email me, and if I can be of any support, any help, feel free to ask me how I can serve.
Oh, so good. So good. Founders, stay strong, stay focused, and remember, you've got this. See you next time. Thanks again for tuning in. And Cauveé, thank you for joining us at the Startup Life community and sharing your brilliance and your deliciousness.
Thank you, Andy. You guys take care. Boost.
Okay. Bye, everyone.